Hello and welcome to the ReCommerce podcast, the podcast where we talk all things ReCommerce and circular businesses. This week we are talking about AI and how it's going to affect both commerce in general and especially ReCommerce. And we're going to go through both buyer and seller or the merchant side. Like every other week so far, I'm joined by Tuomo Laine, the co-founder and CEO of Twice Commerce. Welcome.
Great to be here. Thank you, Karri. We need to start inviting other people to the podcast also.
That's what I've been hearing. Yes. We'll have to see what we can do about it.
Yeah.
All right. Let's start going through the buyer journey from the buyer's perspective and how is AI going to affect that? So how is e-commerce or commerce in general going to look like in a couple of years that the AI and MCPs and all of these new technologies are swimming into the world of commerce?
Yeah, sure. I think it's probably easiest to start thinking about like from product discovery. How do people actually discover products? So now I think the product discovery route might be that if you need a product, you might already go directly to the brand's website, or then you just simply Google it. And if you think about Googling stuff, you usually have websites as results, the online stores, but you also see those product cards there on the top. Now, AI-driven discovery is kind of, instead of going to Google, you might go to, ChatGPT. So you go to a chat client where you go and have a discussion around that. Hey, I might I want to buy a iPhone, where might I find that? Or maybe you have a more specific need, like in ReCommerce, that I'm looking for an old Jimi Hendrix vinyl from this and this era and this condition. So what happens there is that instead of you searching for like an endpoint, like a appropriate website, you are kind of hiring an AI agent to do the search for you. And I think that's a big change in the product discovery process. So you will rather have a discussion with an AI agent that then goes out and tries to find that product for you from different endpoints like websites and so on. And ChatGPT could be one of those. I'm pretty sure that at some point one will be able to just like attach their credit card to ChatGPT to allow it to actually do even purchases on your behalf. But there's also other players that I think will have a role here. So wallet apps I'd see as a logical place to kind of for them to start introducing this capability. So companies like Klarna, PayPal, I've seen some stuff by Visa and MasterCard on this stuff also, that their own wallet apps might have some kind of product discovery tools. So I think that's one of the kind of first things. And this is not ReCommerce specific. It will affect all of the commerce. But for ReCommerce, it just maybe makes finding secondhand goods a lot easier, because kind of finding that secondhand good, that like specific old Jimi Hendrix vinyl, it's a bit harder to do, I think, in your traditional Googling and all of that.
So most likely the first step is going to be, I think there is already some capabilities in ChatGPT that it's going to maybe go and look for those products and then kind of report those to you, and then you are in control if you want to actually purchase those. And probably the end goal or the next phase is that you just say what you want and maybe what you are willing to pay for that, and then the agent actually goes and finds the product for you. And in that world, I'm kind of worried about like how are the sellers and how is the whole market going to look like, because most likely there could be some deals, of course, with some merchants with the AI agents and the platforms that are offering those, that they are working together. But if you are, for example, saying that I always want to find the cheapest price and something that you have already been able to do, and if that's fully automated, like what's going to happen to the stores that are near you that are maybe more convenient, but at some point when you don't actually need to worry about that either, when the shipping is handled fast and everything, and basically everything is going close to the margin zero from the seller's perspective.
Yeah, I think it's maybe a thing that relates a bit to this is that also is kind of what's your purchase preferences outside of price also. So it's not necessarily always about like a specific price. Like we've gotten used to kind of doing, I'd say, active instant e-commerce purchasing. Like I designate 15 minutes to buy my jeans from online, and I want to find them quickly, and I do the purchase decision quickly, and I want them shipped immediately. I think what AI agents might open up is this more passive search also. So I kind of hire that agent and say that I'm looking for these jeans in this price range. I'm willing to, spend 2-3 weeks even, if like allowing the agent to kind of scan and crawl and see if anything pops up in a ReCommerce marketplace, for example. And you can give preferences, like soft preferences, that I'm willing to actually go to a store if it's 10 miles from my home. Or I might prefer a mom and pop shop over a big retailer, or whatever the preference is. Again, those kind of filters would be kind of hard, in my opinion, to set to like Google and try to find it in an active shopping session. But if you allow an agent to passively kind of find those, it might be possible. And that allows also the seller and merchant side to then differentiate a bit. So it's a question like, is it an active purchasing, or do we have like agents passively on the market out looking stuff that meet some bit more softer criteria than just price and immediate availability?
What about the transparency in that word? I think that's something that most likely worries a lot of people. But for me, example, when I'm using these chat agents, and especially when I'm talking about something that maybe doesn't have facts like that you are able to verify easily, then kind of relying on the chat, like what it's actually outputting me. Like if it's saying in this instance that, hey, this is the best place to buy it, like, is it the best place for you as a customer, or is it the best place for the AI agent, or how do you see that going forward?
Well, yeah, it's probably two things, like something that is like outside of Twice's scope, but it's like whatever agent you would choose to use probably depends on your purchasing criteria. So it sounds that you would like to use a purchasing agent that is extremely transparent, does that, whereas someone else just wants the job done. They're less sensitive for some of the aspects. So I think that's what will set apart, like, hey, why do you use PayPal agent? Why do you use Klarna agent? Why do you use ChatGPT? So it is kind of just a preference thing then that. For some, it's more mass buying. For some, it's like specialized buying. So that's kind of my tendency. That's probably the reason why there will be different providers that then focus on different aspects of the purchasing experience. Now, from the merchant side, you touched upon the idea like, hey, what if there would be a store nearby that is better? This is kind of a classic that like if you're a completely offline store, your goods, your inventory, or your catalog is not indexed by anyone. Of course, you're kind of living in a void. You can only be found by someone walking in and browsing through your offering. And maybe that could be your brand, kind of, that you have to come here to know what's here. But for majority of the smaller stores, I think it's going to be a necessity to make sure that your catalog and your availability of your inventory is constantly available, not only in your own online store, so people will not find your online store and start browsing, but rather to be kind of indexed on an individual product level. Kind of the same as with Google now, you have the product cards there on the top of the search results. In the same way, I'd say kind of imagining that the AI agents actually go to that product card level, kind of that these are the things that they would be purchasing and maybe showcasing to you inside ChatGPT or similar. So I would say that for those smaller merchants, it becomes a necessity to have a software that allows you to index your catalog and inventory in real time to be discoverable by AI agents, not only your website.
How do you see that being different between like linear sales where you are selling or buying new items that should be like identical no matter where you buy them, but then on the resales, ReCommerce side where every item is unique, how do you see like the AI affecting this process? Because in many of the resale stores, for example, the camera store that sells the used old vintage cameras and so on, I think, for example, the pictures and all of those are like super important though. So do you see that the AIs are going to be experts in all of these areas and they can say like, hey, maybe in that picture there is something that even human cannot see. So is it going to be like a better or worse experience? Or at least now I think it's mostly relying on like text input from the website. So I'm not sure if it's actually analyzing all the images on websites at the moment, but probably in the future.
Yeah, I think there's multiple aspects to that. So first of all, I think it's probably important that when you have a website, or it's not necessary always that the agents would access the catalog by crawling your website and going through that. They might access it via like MCP layer or kind of getting even better access to the catalog rather than kind of scraping your website. In that context, things like images become a thing that like, have you made your images to be such that they can be analyzed by AI, which essentially would be like Vision API, AI Vision, and well, for example, Vision API by OpenAI. Can you kind of go through that and analyze what do I see there? Or then at minimum providing kind of already on a catalog level or article level, if you have images, being able to provide like a AI agent-friendly description of the image. So not saying that it's an iPhone X, but actually describing a lot better, like that it's an iPhone X with a slight scratch on the screen on the bottom right or something like that. Now, in the context of ReCommerce, like you said, in linear commerce, if you're buying new stuff, all of those are comparable. So once you've found it somewhere, you can just basically do price comparison and maybe shipping speed, and that's it. It's the same product. In ReCommerce, I think the role of the agent can become a lot more valuable. So it's kind of helping you by saying that, okay, I found 3 of these phones. All of them are a bit different. One of them have scratches on the glass. One of them has maybe reduced battery life, and one of them is wrong color but pristine condition. So which one would you prefer? Here's the images, here's the links, and so on. So it's a lot more concierge-driven relationship that you have with the agent, because again, you're hunting for that perfect resale find or secondhand find, and if you would do that manually in terms of active buying, you would spend a lot of your buying time just finding the products and analyzing it, whereas an agent can remove a lot of time, a lot of friction from that purchasing experience, and just offer you the kind of final tea days, like concierge, like here's the 3 things and all of them have pros and cons, and which one would you prefer, if any. So I see that agent purchasing will become even more important for ReCommerce than maybe your linear commerce, where it's more around discovery and price. In ReCommerce, it's everything like preferences and small details.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. So with new items, it's mostly about shipping, price, and maybe how easy it is to do returns, or are they included in the price or something like that. But yeah, in the used categories, it's like every item is unique, and if the AI is able to help with that's probably going to be pretty valuable and interesting to see where it kind of goes. And I can easily see that it fits this kind of product discovery. But if we go all the way to like buying, I think there might be that new items might be easier to just tell agent like, hey, find cheapest and fastest and just get it for me. But on the used side, you probably, at least before you kind of start trusting it that it's actually like delivering exactly what you want, you probably want to do more of that like end decisions after the agent has found the products for you. But how do you see the buying experience evolving?
Yeah, I think in buying there's these few things that you mentioned, like the agent could do a checkout already. That's of course one thing, that you give it a credit card, you give it a budget, and you allow them to do purchases maybe below a threshold or similar. Like grocery shopping could be like that. All right, I allow you to buy the stuff with $100, and here's the recipes that I want to make this week. And then errors, if they happen, they're not too dramatic. So buying is one. I think shipping is one, and then there's an interesting category, probably a bit niche, but what's interesting idea is that I've seen a few startups that, for example, focus in let's call it like price elasticity or negotiation capabilities. So they kind of allow businesses to say on their website that, all right, this item costs $1,000 in the website, but in practice, if you would go in store, there's always wiggle room. Like nobody, like almost like with I don't know if it's a global thing, but it feels that with furniture, there's always like the bed costs $1,000, and then you're saying, okay, it's a bit expensive, and the seller always have wiggle room to give you some like discounts there. Kind of the same with cars. So that translated into an agent relationship is that the buying agent that you've hired is not just looking at a static catalog, but it's actually interacting with a seller agent there who has a bit of a wiggle room also. I've seen some concepts on that. It's kind of interesting, and sometimes they end up in a super odd place. But it's kind of would you allow a seller agent also to do some kind of that? Hey, what if you buy this bundle, or what if you do the like these campaigns that if you end up buying 5, you get the 4th one free. So then kind of allowing this level of facilitation, that would be interesting to see. A bit niche maybe, but I've seen a few concepts on that. I think that's interesting, that kind of, could I tell my purchasing agent that I like this, but go back and try to get me a discount. Other than that, I think there's in buying experience, deliveries are of course one. I think there's like, now if you think about when is the delivery happening, I think that experience is usually like, okay, I have to agree a certain time slot. And depending on the delivery method, it might be like from 9 to 5, or then it's maybe a 2-hour slot or similar. You have a tracking code, you constantly get some updates on where the item is. I think many of those things can be transformed from a kind of a static notification to a more of a like a discussion almost with the customer support, or kind of a concierge service where the agreeing of when things get delivered or knowing what's happening there might be a more of an agent relationship.
And that's probably going to be interesting when the AI assistants, kind of like the new generation of Siri or Google assistants, actually start to be powerful enough that they kind of know your schedule, they know when you're home, and they can also do that automatically in the background if they have access to your calendar and emails and all of that stuff. So they actually know really well like what's the good time to receive the product, and maybe something that happens in the background that doesn't involve you at all.
Exactly. So there could be a lot of like automation on exactly like you said, home assistants saying that like doing this kind of facilitation, that bring it on Thursday at 10 a.m. and then your schedule changes it, and maybe it can handle some of that. And when it cannot handle it, maybe it will kind of notify you that, hey, don't forget that you have that delivery happening at 10. So I think that's kind of one of the things. And then when we go beyond purchasing and we go to maybe returns, there you usually return an item due to it not being the right item, or it doesn't fit you, or then it's damaged. So for those damaged items or similar, there's probably a lot that where AI vision and everything that can be kind of deduced from that can help both sides. So you taking an image of the item allows a lot of things. First of all, it allows to declare whether it's the right item, so that you're sending the right stuff. The seller knows that, okay, this is what we will be receiving back. They get a condition declaration kind of already from the image, an idea that, all right, how damaged is it? and to kind of make a deduction that do they want it back, or would they just, like, for example, want to ship you a new one and ask you that do you want to keep the old one. I think there's been cases like with Amazon or similar where the unit economics for them in some price points, it's easier to just send you a new one and not take the old one back. So I think that return process where AI vision can kind of create a declaration for an item, so what is its condition and all of that, can help the reverse logistics process, that whether you send it to the merchant or whether there's a third party in between that takes it into a marketplace or to recycling and all of that. I think there's a lot that can be removed, a lot of friction that can be removed there for both sides.
That's very interesting, yeah. Is there any other aspects of the buyer journey or buyer side that you see that the AI is going to have a major effect? So I think we now covered like product discovery, buying experience, a little bit on the delivery and shipping.
There's been a few concepts that I've seen also. There's been like in the social commerce side of things. So if you operate on a website, there could be things where if you need assistance in an online store environment, I think there's this shopping assistants, virtual shopping assistants that are there that you can, instead of doing this like filter-based search, you start by chatting with the like on website assistant, and then there might be some like community aspects that might happen there that. Again, more they've been more on a concept level that I've seen in other startups doing, but there's been like community building almost like across websites, that if you're interested in this stuff and kind of building communities and kind of facilitating those with AI, but they are still on a concept level. I think there's a lot that when you end up on a website, we'll probably start to see a lot of that, like almost like when Intercom came and everywhere all of a sudden you start to have that chat or other providers. I think we're going to start to see similar concepts appear on the website, from like shopping assistance and kind of more personalized ways of finding the stuff that you need.
Yeah, and actually one thing that came to my mind was from the Google's I/O demo. Not sure if you saw that, but you are able to kind of, I think it's taking a photo of yourself and then actually try out all the clothes that are available in that store, like how they actually look on you. And I think there were a lot of positive feedback from some of the early testers on that. So that's especially something that's interesting in the clothing accessory space, where of course you only know when it's actually on top of you what it looks like. It's if it's on some model on a website, it always looks good.
Yeah, the body types tend to be different, but the same, I think IKEA has been doing similar stuff in furniture. So like even like tapping into AR VR, where you can see kind of the items in the real space. Yeah. So whether it's AI or whether it's I think the AI might be that it helps you to kind of generate the concept of how you what kind of furniture this room might have or what paint to use on the wall, and then you can make it even more powerful by just positioning them with VR or other technologies that allow you to then superimpose stuff on top of existing real world.
All right, so that covers maybe the main points from the buyer side. So what about the seller or the merchant side?
Yeah, I think with the seller, we touched upon the idea of making products discoverable. So making sure that your catalog and inventory is indexed in a way that is accessible for AI agents. I think that's the important stuff. That's kind of the basics, that you want to make sure that if someone's asking ChatGPT or similar, where might I rent a bike in Los Angeles, that you are one of the contenders to be showcased there. So that's kind of the basics, and I think that's where it's more of a qualification towards the software that you select to use for your commerce, that they're capable of building your catalog in a way that can enable that. Now, on the other side of things, there's a lot of like operational things that probably where AI helps you a lot. There's the basics that everyone saw as kind of AI became more mainstream, and most of the commerce tools have already, or pretty much every software tool is embedding these. It's the kind of generative capabilities. So instead of you having to figure out product descriptions for every item, you might be able to kind of just generate them by AI. So if you want to have a nice product description for the surfboard, and then you have some brand tonality, there's a lot of tools that help you just generate that rather than you having to kind of type all of that out. And then you can maybe fine tune the last mile there. So I think that's the kind of basics that when you think about registering items and generating the kind of data there, like what is it, what variants does it have, and the product descriptions and so on, a lot of that can be automated with AI. So that's just like time saving, and also again at the same time enables maybe a bit better purchasing experience for the end user. Other than that, I think there's other operational aspects where, for example, inventory registration, not only enriching the content, but actually in specifically for ReCommerce, where we talked about that where vision capabilities can help a lot. That if you're handling product returns, or maybe your whole business is a secondhand store, so if you register in the inventory, it can be as easy as just snapping a picture of it. So even if you wouldn't have like a brand catalog against which that image would be analyzed, the general language models are pretty good at identifying what is this item and giving it a condition grading that can be used in your own inventory. So like item registration is as simple as snapping a photo of that item as it comes in. So that's, to me, like again, it's kind of generative, but there's also the element of vision capabilities there that allows the prompt to be born almost like, yes, please register with this data schema, something for this image that we have here. So I think that's definitely a core capability that even small store owners should have. Better data, more enriched data, and they can create that data more easily. And then if the technology partner that they're working with is on par with the modern standards, then that data is discoverable and indexed by AI agents in the same way as websites are indexed and crawled by, Google crawlers.
What phase are we currently there? So if you are seller and you have a software that is enabling AI LLMs to kind of index that, is it for discovery basically, and then they are guiding you to your website for the purchase, or is it already possible to kind of make the whole integration that it's actually all the way to the purchase, or is that something that's coming up in near future?
I think we're currently like on a mainstream level where we're at the moment where your catalog and website can be discoverable. For example, ChatGPT can kind of talk about that inside the chat client and then direct the user to do the purchasing themselves. I think there probably are already kind of first like providers that allow AI agent-driven shopping. I should check the latest Y Combinator batch, but I'm pretty sure that there should be at least 2 or 3 of these, I would imagine. But when does it become mainstream? I would estimate like a year, maximum 2, where companies like PayPal, Klarna, or similar would introduce this, or ChatGPT would introduce these capabilities, like commerce capabilities inside their own existing UX. So I think that would be the time when things start to become more mainstream, and more merchants will organically start to ask the questions from commerce software providers like us that, hey, is this so that I'm now discoverable in Klarna app?
How do you see when that starts to happen? Is it something that's going to take over, or is it that you basically have a new sales channel that is just through the AI now? So you already have a bunch of different sales channels. So is this just another one, or is this actually going to replace most of the existing? Like, are you going to have an online store at some point?
I think you're going to always like have an online store. Let's think about it through like, there's never been like, I don't think there's that many true replacings happening like overnight. It's always a new channel, but the share of the channel just grows over time at the cost of some other channel. It might kind of grow the size of the pie in general, but if we start like, first people went to like, everything was in store, everything was walk-in. Then we started having mail catalogs and like mail orders. That started to grow. And then internet kind of took mail orders and mail catalogs to be digital. And then, well, it was again a new channel. People were still ordering with mail catalogs, still going to the physical stores. Maybe the overall purchasing also increased a bit, but probably the e-commerce started to eat out the mail catalog more, and then the walk-ins a bit less. And then like social media buying and Klarna and these kind of wallet apps and such, again, new channels or marketplaces. New channels, they take a share of it. What would be the prominent channel depends a lot on the actual like brand and product. Like groceries, there was just like practical limitations on buying groceries online for a long time, whether we can kind of have the logistics working there. Also, if we now think about physical retail stores, there's been this trend that slowly some physical stores, they move from like warehouses and purchasing towards like showrooms. You go there, you test the stuff, they become a little bit more clean. There's less of like clutter in terms of like just having items out there. And then you go there, figure out what you want, but then when you do the order, it arrives to your home in 2 days. So that might be the similar thing in that happens to like websites that, all right, the website, instead of just being an ordering thing, maybe they start to focus more on these showroom capabilities like we discussed earlier, like providing services and experiences that allow you to kind of test like how would this furniture look in my home, or how would these clothes look on when I wear it, and then the purchasing and the browsing of the overall catalog becomes a bit less secondary. So maybe the actual purchase then happens with an AI agent that is embedded in the online store. So that's how I kind of perceive it. So it probably wouldn't replace, but it becomes a relevant enough channel, and that will grow over time. And the technology that you need in order to kind of, because it will not be like one agent channel, it will be probably hundreds. So you just want to make sure that you're kind of agent friendly.
Okay, so that's the main thing near future, or already kind of happening, that merchants should be looking for in their software is like maybe first just creating the catalog super easily and using AI there. And I think that's something that you are already able to do inside some of the commerce software, but also just by using ChatGPT and putting the image there and say like, can you do a description? And most likely all of these, let's say, basic or simple capabilities are coming to the commerce platforms soon, and I know that they are already on twice. And then the next step is to have it discoverable, so kind of do the distribution to the buyer side of these AI agents and so on. But how is AI then gonna influence like the components of this merchant world, where you are, for example, working with inventory or pricing the items and kind of maybe not optimizing, but making sure that the operations are working properly, and why not, of course, optimize the business for you as a seller?
Yeah, I think it's important. Well, and I have to disclaim that I'm not even like the professional in this, but it's like it's important to differentiate. For example, in inventory, we could talk about like forecasting demand forecasting and supply forecasting or dynamic pricing, like based on weather or whatever. What's AI and what's just like machine learning and data models now we tend to throw the term AI on top of everything intelligent. Okay, it's AI. So there have been, companies like Relex and I know there's a lot of dynamic pricing companies like Price and similar that already before AI hype did like a lot of data-driven optimization of dynamic pricing and demand forecasting and so on. Maybe the role of AI there might be that for less professional merchants or that it's kind of smaller operations that do not have the resources or know-how or time to do like very complex data analysis on forecasting. These commerce platforms can embed these forecasting capabilities but deliver the results in a human readable format, kind of via AI chat agent driven relationship, which might be more understandable for a less data driven user.
So providing like recommendation and tips and tricks that you might want to implement.
Exactly. So rather than giving like a huge Excel and whatnot, maybe it can give a more simple that, hey, you should probably double your, this gene model for Black Friday because it seems to be the one that is now hyped. I think it could be simple stuff where, the capabilities are the same, but the way how it's delivered and packaged with an AI agent makes it more accessible for the less resource, the merchants that has less resources to kind of analyze complex stuff.
Do you see that this is also like a journey that starts by AI kind of giving you these recommendations that you end up implementing yourself, and maybe once you start trusting it, or just in some time when you are kind of overall maybe trusting the AI, then all of this stuff can happen in the background automatically?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting aspect, and probably like less visible to the merchant, but it's maybe an interesting geeky topic to discuss. Is like, what does like agent automation look like under the hood? So if we've gotten used to kind of the idea that we do automated workflows where I do like, we have even this like visual drag and drop tools, almost like Zapier or similar, where, all right, if this happens, then do this. If this happens, then do this. Now, the reasoning capabilities of many of the AI providers, the agent providers, are pretty good or even great in some cases. So instead of you having to map out all of these workflows, you could hire a kind of AI agent to do the reasoning. What should they do? Then they just need access to these various configuration endpoints. And that's kind of the role, again, where the commerce platforms would need to make sure that like all of the APIs to actually trigger things like change the price or create a new catalog item or new bundle product for this campaign, that all of those actions are available for those reasoning agents. And that probably means like having MCP layers or model context protocols and so on top of your API, so that the AI agent can kind of make sense of what's available for them to play with. So that's kind of, for the merchant, like at the end of the day, it is more of like you described that, all right, what do you recommend? The reasoning part of the thing. And then they would need to kind of be able to access the data to do the reasoning well. And then it would say that, and I would create a bundle of these two products with this price. And then if it seems like a good idea for you, you kind of actually do it yourself. And then if it constantly delivers good results, then you might say that, hey, well, why do I need to be here in between? Let's just like do your recommendations automatically, like autoplay. But under the hood, there's kind of the difference is that does the agent have access only to the data, or does it also have access to kind of the service layer where they can trigger these things?
So are you describing how we are actually losing the jobs to AI here?
No, I wouldn't say that, because I think there's still like, if we think about like self-driving cars, the technology has been somewhat there for a while, but somehow there's this kind of trust gap that you wanna kind of fine tune the last mile or similar. I think it's gonna also, like the world of commerce or like any business, you're trying to find that edge somewhere, and AI tends to be bad at finding the edge. In my opinion, it's a good thing to give you edge if no one else is utilizing it. You just get so much better productivity than anyone else, that you get so much more done than anyone else, that's your edge. But then when it becomes more mainstream and it's embedded into these processes, that's not anymore an edge, and that maybe the kind of everyone gets some of the reasoning and those, like, so then that becomes the standard, and then finding the edge, finding the alpha might be again more of your human innovation. That do you you kind of fine tune the last mile, you change the price a bit, or the product description, you write it to be a little bit more edgy than what the agent would do, or you do some kind of multi-channel hack that would be hard to then just model into one central AI. So I think there's always a role, but the productivity definitely will be a lot higher. Individuals can achieve a lot more. Teams can be smaller. People can be focusing on other aspects more. So yeah, so I wouldn't be too pessimistic, but usually when productivity goes up, it means that less people might be needed, but then what the focus of the people is also shifts a bit.
Yeah, and I think historically when these tools come that make you more productive, it doesn't usually mean less work. It actually means more work, but now you're just able to also do more work more easily. And you mentioned like the self-driving cars. I think it's a very interesting example where it seems like the standards for like AI or computer-made decisions is so much higher than for human. Like, if there is one accident caused by an AI, it's like, oh, can we even trust this technology at all? But at the same time, there is like thousands of accidents caused by humans. So probably similar dynamic also in the commerce space, that when you maybe try it out and it makes one error, you might be like, oh, wait, let's take a couple steps back and like let me do actually the decisions. But probably at some point the accidents, when it's only AI driving the cars, maybe the accidents actually disappear. Yeah,
definitely. And but this is probably then like there's a bunch of like studies and such, that adaptation of technology, that you have the early adapters and then the mass, and it takes time to kind of emotionally and in all of the ways to kind of adapt to that. But I think maybe practically for any merchant listening, I think we're probably still in an era, and will be for a while, where just adapting AI workflows, augmenting your operation with AI workflows, being mindful of it, almost like digitalization early days, making sure that you kind of are making wise bets on the softwares that you use and being future-proof. For a long time, it can give you the edge just by the fact that you have that better productivity in your workflows. And then that edge might be the thing that for the next years that allows you to kind of increase your market share locally or globally. But then when it becomes more mainstream and people catch up, or other competition catches up, what has happened, you've kind of grabbed a larger market share, and then you start the kind of the fine-tuning. But now these disruption moments are the ones where you can kind of take a bigger share of the pie, probably just by adopting things a bit faster than your competition.
Sounds very similar to maybe like internet advertising. When there is a new channel, it's usually like works really well, but when people start going in there, it's kind of becomes similar to the other more mature channels, and you don't have that alpha there anymore, and then you're looking for the next one. And if you are adapting these and able to grow your business, you are maybe in a little bit better position when the next wave comes in. So sounds like a pretty similar strategy to actually adapt the AI.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so we covered a lot of different things for the merchants, sellers so far. So are there any other main use cases that you see that AI is going to influence in the near future?
Yeah, I think probably we would have to do like a day's worth of a podcast if we would go through all of them. But definitely, I think it's harder. Like AI is a horizontal technology, like digitalization, so it will affect everything, and there will be blurred lines of what's really AI and what's like machine learning or data, like big data or what. But there's categories like fraud and payments and such where AI can help a lot. Similarly, there's like there can be like operational kind of governance related things where AI might help you in like tax optimization or similar. And so like it's probably, if you can come up with a job to be done, there's probably AI can help you there. So I think it's important to just like, or trying to kind of simplify what enables most of those changes is having the capabilities where your processes and the core data resources, which tend to be customers, your product catalog, your inventory, and your orders, that those are managed by some system that is built in a way that these resources can be accessed by agents or kind of even operated by agents. And then it's like your decision when you want to go into that. But like, and that each one of these resources in their underlying things like inventory, that, all right, can I just register items by an image and all of these things. So if you're operating on those, probably it's easier for you to implement the AI capabilities across any job that you might come up with.
Okay. And maybe at the end, I know that there is the new Twice platform coming out soon, and it has been designed to work in this new modern AI era. So maybe just like a quick overview of like what is possible with the new Twice platform and how is it working in the AI world and helping the merchants.
Sure, it's going to be super fun to just showcase it rather than to talk about it. But I think it's many of the things that we discussed here that have been built into the fundamentals. So first of all, if we think about the core resources, the inventory, catalog, customers, and order management, the approach that we've taken is that, first of all, like that we don't force workflows to you, but rather it's quite flexible data models behind it. So you can store quite a lot of different data for each one of the assets, and which means also that when accessed by AI agents or even created from an image by an AI agent, a lot of information can be stored, which like unstructured information also, which isn't like modeled into some taxonomy. Then like a geeky thing, we've utilized some open source taxonomies behind everything. So when, for example, one use case that you can do with the new platform is that if you get a product return, you can just snap a picture of it, and we've even made it so that it doesn't have to be with the device. You can use any device available. So in a retail environment, you usually might have one iPad shared by the store personnel. So with our system, you can just like sync it with the session, take a picture of the product, and it creates immediately, registers an inventory item for it, and then does all of the things that we discussed here. That it checks what it is, it taxonomically categorizes it, creates attributes for it, does condition grading, pricing, all of the things that you kind of, from a single image, you have immediately a product that you could put into a shop-in-shop second-hand corner, and at the same time being listed online and even listed in any third-party channels that you might be using, like eBay or similar. The core thing that we've made is that all of these assets are AI agent-friendly, which means that these database schemas there behind it is, we put a lot of effort in thinking how to make it so that we're not limiting you any of the merchants, but we're rather enabling. We have sensible defaults that enables to create a sensible default, but you can take it as far as you want. One cool thing which I kind of like, that in any view you are in our product, you can kind of see what's the API endpoint or even the MCP, kind of the agent endpoint, for you to create the resource, edit the resource, or or even delete it. So how do I access this, like what I have in my screen right now? How do I access this via programmatically or via an agent? That's I think kind of trying to bridge the gap that you understand that anything that you do graphically there or kind of in the graphical user interface, you could be doing programmatically, which means that an agent could also do it because we've made sure that the APIs are AI friendly.
Okay. Sounds like a lot of new capabilities coming to Twice real soon.
Yeah, definitely.
But hey, thank you, Tuomo, once again for really nice insights, and let's see if you're going to be the guest on the next episode as well.
I don't know whether I should say hope not or hope so.